Welcome. My name is Alex Kina, and my co-host tonight is Jennifer Clayton, who I'm sure everyone knows because she's an indispensable resource here in the political science department. And
Thank you.
We are joined by three recent Poly alums who are going to share their experience working in public service. So I'm assuming everybody who showed up tonight and also streaming this after the fact is interested in working in the government, working in the not-for-profit sector, or working in public service in some form. And so hopefully you'll be able to gain some insight from the experiences of our panelists here and sort of be able to ask questions and hear what they have to say about their own personal experiences. So I want to talk a little bit about the format. This is super casual, super laid back. If you have a question at any time, you can just type it in the chat box and we will be monitoring it. We also have a list of questions that we prepared beforehand that we'll sort of try to structure the discussion with. But first, what I want to do is I want each panelist to introduce themselves and talk about their experience at VCU and why they decided to choose a career in public service and how they prepared for the job market when they were approaching graduation. So we can just go in alphabetical order here by first name. So how about Aisha, if you would care to just go ahead.
All right. Well, hello, everyone. Again, my name is Aisha Kamara. I'm currently a program manager for the Bureau of Political Military Affairs at the U.S. Department of State. So how did my undergraduate experience prepare me for my current role? That was the first question?
Yeah.
Okay. I would say that in undergrad, I attended a lot of career events, joined organizations, and interned with state. And I think initially I was a very shy person. I didn't really like talking very much. And so being able to do these various things helped me to become comfortable networking and learning about how to become more professional when I entered this work environment. So, you know, being able to do this, build relationships with these people that you're networking with and staying in contact with them over time really helped me to be able to build that bridge from an undergraduate student to the workforce.
So can I ask a follow-up question?
Yes.
So did you know that you wanted to work with the State Department before you graduated, or was that just sort of like an opportunity that you found after you graduated?
I think the University Career Services, they had they put up a posting about an internship with state. And after doing that internship, I was like, oh, this seems so cool. I want to learn more about it. And so I think my focus from then on out was to become part of the State Department. So any opportunity I could to intern with them, I continue to do it. Very
cool. So really, it sounds like an internship was a huge part of that decision.
Yes, it definitely was.
Awesome. Aisha, would you care to share your experience?
Yeah, so hi everyone, I'm Aisha Moore. I graduated in 2019. My experience at VCU was amazing. I actually started off as a chemistry major. So I was chemistry for the first year and a half of my studies. So I say all that to say was I ended up switching to political science just out of interest, and I used all of my resources to the fullest extent for the last 2.5 years. I asked all of my professors questions. I was making my schedules and just very strategic about that with all of the advisors. So the network of VCU alum was amazing for me as well, because usually I got to be able to be put in touch with others. The professors had such a wide spread of experience, so that was just super helpful for me as a transfer into this major, as someone who knew a little bit about politics but had so much to learn. Didn't really know where I wanted to go at first. Just the experiences alone and just in terms of just knowledge that was shared with me was the most important thing, I think, for me as an undergraduate student. It led me to the internships I was able to obtain. It led me to kind of knowing about the internships I could do, being in Richmond, the home of the state capitol, with legislative members everywhere, nonprofits everywhere, you know, like you're in the heart of politics of Virginia. And that is just something that I think is so overlooked. And that was just amazing to know at the time that I needed it. So I would just say to you guys, and I hope you guys did take advantage of your classmates, your professors, your advisors. That was key for me to get to where I am currently. And I'll wait. I don't know if I missed part of that introduction. But.
So actually, I'm interested. So you you started off working for the governor of Virginia after your graduation, correct?
So actually, I was with one of the members of the Senate. So while in undergrad, sorry, dogs. While in undergrad, I was able to start interning with the General Assembly. And that was something that a professor, Dr. Reckendorf, kind of led me to. I was able to work for Senator Lucas, who was based in my home city. And I worked with her for undergrad from my junior and senior years, worked with her full-time for about a year after. And I knew I wanted to come back to Richmond as much as I loved her, loved that experience. And then luckily was able to land in the governor's office in Richmond.
Very cool. All right. Well, thank you, Aisha.
Yeah.
And Megan, what do you do and how did you get here?
Well, I actually work for Aja's old boss's best friend, Senator Locke. I'm also a transfer. I actually started in community college. And so I missed kind of those first 2 years of resources at VCU. But once I got to VCU, I was in Jen and Nathan's office all the time, looking for stuff to do, looking for internships. I was able to take advantage of the Wilder School Capital Semester Program. And I got placed with Senator Locke. And I did a session with her through that, and then they kept me on. So now I am with her office as a legislative assistant, legislative director position, and I'm going to be staying with them until August, and then I'm going to get my PhD at UNC.
Nice. So it sounds like you had a very similar experience as our other panelists, where it was really an internship was what got your foot in the door.
Absolutely. Prior to that, like I'd done a lot of campaign work and stuff like that, and had some success working in different campaigns and moving, like, you know, the more you do, the more you stick around, the more people you meet, the further up you can go. But I will say that the internship programs for LAs and for legislative interns are really the best, absolute best thing that you can do. A lot of times you end up getting hired. I know a lot of people that came in and maybe interned for somebody in the Senate, but then somebody in the House needed a full-time LA and they got recommended over. So I cannot stress the importance of the internship. One of the last projects I'm working on before I leave is trying to get the General Assembly to put a paid internship program in place, because I think, unfortunately, unless you have the support of a program like Capital Semester where they're paying you, or you have the support of family, friends, something, you know, it's really hard to take those long, grueling jobs, especially if you're working a part-time job to get through school. So any advocacy I can offer towards offering those internship opportunities, because it really is, like, unless you know somebody, that's really how you get your foot in the door over at the General Assembly.
And this is, for those listening who may not understand the distinction, this is not a campaign type internship that we're talking about, because a lot of our students do campaigning as well, but this is the actual governing and legislating side, right?
Yeah.
So that's important too, because I know that there's a lot of internships for campaigning, but there is a big pyramid when it comes to interning as a campaign staffer, and you have to start at the very bottom and do a lot of unpaid work. I want to ask another set of questions, but now I want to go in reverse order in the way that we started. So Megan, I'm going to throw this back at you. We all come into college with this idea, and Megan and I are both alums of J. Sargent Reynolds Community College, represent. But were there any unexpected sort of outcomes for you in your career? Have you changed your plans? Have they evolved with new experiences? Maybe you can speak to that a little bit.
Absolutely. So when I was at J-Sarge, coming out of J-Sarge, my big dream was like to work for the mayor's office. I thought like working for the city of Richmond was it. I've always wanted to, like, I love bureaucracy. I know a lot of people hate it, and that's like probably really taboo to say these days, but that's what makes the world go round as a collective society. So coming out of J Sarge, I was like, man, I just got to get into the mayor's office. And then coming out of VCU, I really landed my ideal position. My Senator Locke is the head of the Senate Dems. She's the caucus chair. She's the rules chair. She's been there forever. She wields a lot of power in the Senate. And honestly, probably coming out of junior year, I was like, this is it. This is home. This is where I'm going to stay forever. And even through that experience, I realized I wanted to learn more. I wanted to be a part of the knowledge creation that's informing equitable policy. So even in that experience, I now have decided I'm going to go get my PhD. I'm heading off to UNC in August. So I think the most important thing I can say is just stay open. Don't set a ceiling for yourself. Don't say that, this is it. Or this is, my dream position, and then just stick to it, because like the harder you work, the longer you're in this, you may find, like Aisha, you come in and say, I'm going to be a chemist, and then like something changes and you get inspired to do something else. So just stay open and stay open to opportunity. There's always room for advancement. And different places within the legislature / public sector that you can grow and do more.
Awesome, thank you. And how about you, Aisha? Are there any sort of unexpected twists and turns along your journey to this moment?
Yes, definitely. I think starting out, I had a pretty smooth, transition from undergrad to the workforce, which that I'm so thankful for. I luckily had a boss that wanted to hire me after, that had space to hire me after, because sometimes it's not a matter of if you can fit into that position, it's if they can hire, because these offices are small. They're not like the US and federal level where you have multiple staffers per person. It's, usually 2 to 3, a little bit more sometimes, but it's a very generally small number. So, I started off with a smooth path. I was able to have that transition to Governor Northam's administration, and I loved every second of that job. I was like, I want to be in the governor's office forever. But of course, we are in a state where things flip back and forth, and that's something that you have to be mindful of. Some people can stay streamlined along and are lucky enough to stay in administrations through and through, depending on their role. But for me, I was in the policy office. That's a very intimate area for a governor. That's literally the area where you are making the governor's visions come to life. So me staying in the next administration was very, very unlikely. It was not going to happen. So I had to be mindful of that, kind of coming into that campaign season, and knowing that even if Governor McAuliffe were to win, it's still no guarantee that I would have stayed in that same position nor in that administration whatsoever. So that was a hurdle for me to personally get through, to be like, this job that I'm obsessed with is going to come to an end no matter what. And even if it were to transition over to another Democrat that I could work under, it would still be a different job because it's a different person. So with the current transition that we are in under a new administration and a new governor, of course, I had to find a new job. But I looked at that as a very bright spot, because I was like, I came into this, pretty young. I don't know what my true specialization is. I don't know what it is that I want to carry through and make my thing for years and years to come. So I took this as an opportunity to learn a different side of politics in Virginia. So now I'm actually in the private sector doing state lobbying. So I still work around the General Assembly. I'm still working with the same members that I came in with. And it's just a different whole side of it. But I'm looking at this as an opportunity to learn this side, learn if I like it, because this is something that I could do, but also people switch back and forth, administrations will turn over, power will turn back over. And that's something that I'm kind of, looking ahead of and looking forward to, because it's never too late to switch a role. And so I think, piggybacking off of what Megan said, being flexible in these jobs is really important, because things are ever changing. And sometimes that's a great thing, because you will constantly be learning more and you will constantly know more people and constantly able to, open that network up and see what else is there for you, because things will only transition to get better and you will only become more knowledgeable. So I would say my biggest hurdle was learning to be comfortable with that, because initially I'm used to just consistency and things going as I want to in my own head. And that's just not a reality in politics anywhere. So it's important to know that earlier. But it makes you a whole lot, way more well-rounded. So it's a good thing.
Great, thank you so much. How about you, Aisha?
Oh, goodness, I would say everything in life is unexpected. Initially, when I was graduating, and I did get my undergrad in international affairs, actually, my plan was to go to Peace Corps, and I had been registered to go to Rwanda. And I think 2 weeks before I was supposed to leave, my Peace Corps nurse told me, oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. I did not see your medical record. You have too many allergies. You can't go. And I had been planning for this. I had quit my job, and it was just a really big shock in my life at that point. And so I remember sitting at my parents' house thinking, what am I gonna do? My plan is not working out. And literally a week later, out of nowhere, I get an email from this private teaching company in South Korea. And they said, hey, you reached out to us a year ago asking if, saying that you were interested in teaching abroad. Are you still interested? And at that point, a lot of my things were still packed. So I said, yes. And so 2 months later, I'm flying out and I'm living in South Korea teaching English for the next year. And during that time, I kind of figure out that I want to go to grad school for international affairs. And I apply and take that whole year to just relax from school, get my life together. And by the time I get back, I get into grad school and I'm able to use that old internship I had to get me a job with State Department. And so that really helped drive my career to where it is today. And so I think I would say, luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity. So prepare yourself, network now, so that when the opportunity comes later on, you're ready and you can just kind of step your foot in the door.
That is that's so interesting, because I think a lot of us can totally relate to this massive disappointment, this massive setback, and it's like somehow a new opportunity just pops up in its place. So that's so interesting. Well, I'm going to ask you another question. I'm going to let you start this round. Why did you want to pursue a career in public service in the first place? Because, well, maybe political science majors are different, but there's a lot of opportunities out there in the private sector, and there's a lot more money sometimes in the private sector, and it's not for everybody to pursue a career in government or public service. Why did you in particular choose this career route?
There were two main reasons. The first, I was a part of VCU's, they call it, it's not Globe, it's one other program. It's like a volunteer living learning community. And we had to complete 100 hours of service. And that really helped me to understand the importance of communities and helping to build them. And also I had the opportunity to study abroad in China while I was at VCU. And during that time, it was I would say an interesting experience where there were not a lot of people of color living in China. And so I wondered why there was that gap. And so I started doing a lot more volunteering in the community, teaching people how to speak English. And I thought to myself, I want to be able to work and provide, build more connections between people from other countries and the US. And I think the best way to do that is to work for the government and help create more of those links.
Cool. Aisha.
I think for me, it was a matter of always loving politics, always being, somewhat involved in it in a way where I was volunteering in my community or trying to get into the federal level type of things. Just always something that I was admiring, but never thought I could do myself. And I don't know why that was. So I think when I made that switch for myself to pursue this wholeheartedly, and had such a great mentor with that. I mean, there isn't a lot of women in color in Virginia politics still. There's more, but there still is not that many. And for me to have a woman of color in a position of power be my first mentor in terms of this is what this means, this is what I do, this is what I can do, And for her to explain, the transitions of not always being in positions of power, explaining to me what Virginia does in terms of their flips, and me not being as state aware as I was before this position. We have a dog in here. So I just loved every bit of it. I was able to intern with Senator Lucas when they were in the minority and she did not hold any power at all. And then I was able to intern with her when the Dems won, and she was able to be President Pro Temp, the first Black woman to do that. And I think it was just something for me where I was like, I can never not do public service. So I think that's why my transition into private sector now is a very interesting thing for me, because it is great in its own way. There are so much variation when it comes to private sector work. It's not all the same. It's not all comparable. So I was very careful in what I picked, but I know that this isn't my forever. I know that I do want to go back to the public sector world. It is just where the change happens. It's where you're able to really get into the weeds of what everybody needs. And I will just forever have that in my heart to just do whatever I can. And I can't wait, to continue that work.
And it's worth saying that the reason that you do what you do is because of your experiences in the public sector. I mean, that's why you're good at what you do.
Absolutely.
Bring that experience to bear. So that makes a lot of sense. How about you, Megan?
For me, it's multiple things. First, like when I was a kid, my dad used to, like, we didn't go on traditional vacations. All our friends went to the beach or like amusement parks, and our dad drug us like all over the country to go see like national parks and stuff. And as I got older, I realized like how much stuff government does and how much it provides us as citizens and as residents. So there was that piece, and like learning like that the interstates are a thing that like somebody came up with so that we could all get places, and the post office. And then also it was just lived experiences prior to coming. I'm a non-traditional student. I started back to school when I was like 29. So I had lived as a single mother, and had been on like SNAP and Medicaid, and saw how terrible those programs were. I worked in the nonprofit sector, and we would be on the ground every day helping people. But like, no matter, I mean, it's amazing and wonderful work, but if the policies aren't changing, there's just going to be another line of people to help the next day. And I really started to understand that like ground level legislation and policy, and then administration of those policies, like that's where the metal meets the road. And again, like it sounds corny, but I say it all the time in our office, like democracy only works if we work it. And I think it is far too precious a thing not to put my hands to and do my part to make sure that this thing called America keeps running.
Awesome. So here's the next question, and it's for you, Megan. Let's see. Let's pick a good one here. What is your favorite part of the job that you're doing right now?
Ooh, my favorite part is policy research. It gets me going. It's actually
That's
what
a
led
totally
me.
nerdy thing to say, by the way.
I know, I know, but it's what led me to go want to get my PhD, because like when people, a lot of legislation, like people, when I even coming into it, I was like, oh, the lawmakers just are like, this is a law I'm gonna make, and they have an idea and then they make a law. But like a lot of times, like people just bring them stuff, and then it's the job of the LAs, the LDs to like dig in and find out about like whatever random topic that you're getting. So I absolutely love sitting down with subject matter experts, sitting down with communities that are affected by the legislation, learning about it, diving into data on it, and seeing, you know, what the real answers are to questions. I think that's been one of my favorite things, and especially in the office that I'm in, Senator Locke does a lot of stuff around criminal justice, housing justice, things like that. So I've been able to really like dig in and learn about some things that have allowed us to inform the argument around why the policy matters.
Awesome. Thank you. How about you, Aisha?
I base it off of my previous role?
Any job.
I'll do the governor's office. My favorite part about that job was definitely being able to, similar to Megan, honestly, a lot of policy research. We were able to, the policy office is very small. It's only 6 of us. So the 6 of us each have a focus area, and I was able to assist in education and public safety, as well as just consider myself kind of the wonk of everybody. I was able to be everyone's assistant in a way. So it was very nice to kind of work with the secretaries, with their individual expertise, and really just get to know the governor too, in terms of what he truly wanted to come to life. And it was a great way to also kind of put our individual twist on, you know, how things should go based off of what we also knew. It was a very cohesive and collective mind, and I really appreciated that. And I also loved being able to see the Commonwealth as well. Being from Hampton Roads, I'm a Hampton Roads girl through and through, and I love Hampton Roads, but I didn't know much of Virginia in terms of, you know, just the Nova, Richmond, Virginia Beach areas. And so it was nice to just travel around the Commonwealth and really kind of mold that into my thinking as well, in terms of how will this better serve not just one subsect of people, but being able to really keep in mind what the whole Commonwealth entirely needs and what will suit those different areas very well. So it was a very big brain power role in terms of, yes, policy research, but also getting to know people and their individual needs and those area needs that not everybody will see that lives in the state.
Cool. And how about you, Aisha?
All right, so I think to explain a little bit about what I do first. So in my role, I provide grants to non-governmental organizations to work within Africa to first remove landmines from the ground after there has been a war, so that communities are able to walk through land. They're able to use the land also for socioeconomic purposes. But we also secure weapons so that they are not being proliferated out into the open and being able to be used by terrorists or other criminals. So one of my favorite roles is being able to do program visits. So every so often we're able to travel to these countries and see the work that we've paid to be done and ensure that all our NGOs are meeting their project goals. We also get the opportunity to bring embassy officials out to see the work that we're doing. And essentially, if embassy officials are on board and they say, okay, you guys are doing a great job, they can help encourage Congress to continue to give us more money to fund these grants and to be able to protect these communities from future harm.
Wow, that is amazing. What an amazing experience. What countries have you been to?
So I'm in, this is a fairly new role, but I've been to Chad, and this summer I'll be going to Zimbabwe, Mozambique, Malawi, and Tanzania.
Whoa, that is awesome. Talk about bucket list experience. That is so cool. So I want to ask a question thinking about our students in mind. What is one way, we've talked about internships, but what is one way that you can expand your network so that you have more networking opportunities? Because we all know the importance of networks. Everyone here on this panel has used an internship to sort of get their foot in the door. But is there any advice that you could give to students in terms of how to create a career network that they can use to find work after graduation?
Are we starting with me?
Yeah.
Okay. I would say 2 main ways. The first, I would definitely say create a LinkedIn account. And once you do that, put down your experiences on your LinkedIn and start adding people that are in the field that you want to work in. A lot of people love being able to talk about their careers and give informational interviews. And so if you add someone and say, hey, I'm really interested in learning more about what you do, can you give me an informational interview? By doing this, not only are you helping to build your network, but they remember your face. And if there's ever an opportunity where something comes up, they might say, hey, here's a job opportunity you should apply to, which helped me get into my current position. I think the other thing would be, let me see, whenever you go anywhere, carry around business cards with you. I live up in the DC area, and a lot of times just riding the metro, you meet the most random people, and everyone is somebody. And so just having a quick 5-minute conversation, that could be someone, give them your card, and next thing you know, that could lead the way to getting a job.
Really, really good advice. Aisha, do you have anything to add to that?
I would say not much to add. I think for me though, one thing that I really appreciated outside of my internship was talking to advisors and professors of mine about alumni. So these panels are really helpful. If you don't do every panel that VCU has to offer, just talking to your advisors, your professors about what you're interested in, even if you don't know for sure, but just things that you kind of want to get in the weeds on. VCU has such a great alumni network, and it's amazing. That's something that I really used to my advantage my senior year. I was able to connect with a friend of mine now who was a VCU alum, and she is the current executive director of the Black Legislative Caucus. And she taught me so much just within just a few phone conversations. She just had a lot to offer in terms of perspective, me as a young woman, me trying to just figure things out. So I would just say alumni is important just to have that in your corner. It's always good to have people to ask questions to. It's always a good way too to be like, no, that's actually not what I want to do, but who do you know? It's like an in-person LinkedIn. And I think honestly, I hope you guys take advantage of that, because it's been great for me, and it's going to be great for me now to connect with these two panelists. Like, these are two other people to add to my network that are amazing that I would not have known without this panel. So just ask to connect and network in that way, just to at least make friends.
Awesome. Megan, do you have any advice to share?
Yeah, volunteer. Find organizations that are doing work that you're interested in and get involved. Campaigns always need people to knock doors. They always need people to make phone calls and stuff like that. And you'll make some amazing connections that way. I would also say get involved in organizations. There is the Virginia Young Democrats, there's Virginia Young Republicans, if there's young Republicans on this call. But there's lots of organizations that you can get involved in. There's like for Richmond specific, there's a couple of different ones. There's like Richmond for All and the Richmond chapter of the DSA. Like there's a bazillion different things going on. And a lot of those orgs are headed by people that either have been in the public sector or are currently in the public sector. They're people that are like politics nerds. So just get in those circles. And then again, I think volunteering is huge, you know, even if it's something as simple as doing, you know, some volunteer work at a, like I know for our office, we do stuff like with the food bank and things like that. And we always put a call out that's like, hey, you know, come with us to pack groceries for a family, come join us. That's always something that's in our newsletter. And like, those are opportunities where you would get to, you know, meet the senator and work beside them. And I think one of the biggest things that has been for our office as far as like hiring staff since I've been there is, you know, you got to get on the ground and like prove yourself first before somebody in our office is going to be like, okay, we'll hire you. So there's more ways to do that than just doing the internships. And honestly, like if you're interested in somebody and like their policy, like call their office and see if they have anything you can do, if you can make phone calls, if you can, you know, come in and like answer emails. There's, you know, millions of things to do all the time. And sometimes doing, you know, donating a little bit of your time can be an amazing investment for the back end with your career.
Awesome. Well, here's another question. Are there any particular skill sets that you developed during your experience at VCU that have served you well in your current role?
We're still going like yeah. Forward and backward, right? Okay. One of the amazing experiences that I actually got to work on it with Dr. Kina is a research project that Dr. Amanda Winterseek was doing. And it really like laid out the nitty gritty of what I mean, we learn it in methodology if you take it. We learn about it as we're looking at other things. We read other people's studies and stuff. But being able to be, you know, pretty much from day one on that project with her and seeing how like how data scraping works, how, analysis works, what that then means on the back end. How do you put that together in a way that is like tangible and deliverable for people? So I think also RAing, if you can get any of those positions, we have an amazing group of professors at VCU in the poli-sci department, and somebody is always working on something. So like, ask your professors if you're interested in all like in policy or in like informing policy. Touching base with your professors and finding a project you can jump on, I think would be an invaluable experience.
And I will just say that I'm always looking for research assistants. So just come by my office, Founders Hall, 3rd floor, all the way down the hallway up to the right, and come chat. I'm happy to talk.
That's a paid position.
It's true. Although I don't have any money, but but I also always do independent studies too. That's always fun too. Aisha, how about you? Were there any particular skill sets that you developed at VCU that have served you well in your career?
I think I did do some research for a few professors, and I kind of just asked to do things that I didn't know if I'd be good at. I think just being able to be comfortable in finding a project that you might not do well with, but having a professor that cares enough about you to say, hey, this is what you need to work on, or are you going to further your research in this sphere, or, being able to just ask. I think that was my biggest thing that I was afraid of, especially being a latecomer in the political science department, trying to make relationships with other classmates of mine, and, just being able to feel comfortable in that was my biggest thing. And I think I keep saying that too. Like, I relied really heavily on my professors, all of them, just to continue asking, and it's made me what I would consider a better worker now. Like, I'm not afraid to ask for things. I'm not afraid to ask for more work. I'm not afraid to say, hey, I might not be good at this, but like, let me give it a try anyways. I think it's just being comfortable in a very comfortable setting will allow you to feel way more confident in a professional setting, and it'll only have you, elevate from there very quickly on. So I had a lot of negative feedback, positive feedback, all of the above. And that only helped me do way better and continue to learn and widen that spectrum. Because I always tried to ask for things, especially that I knew that on my own time, I wouldn't probably focus on alone. So I would definitely say, like, weed out some professors maybe that you haven't had before, or that you wish to kind of learn more about. A lot of them have written books, theses, all these crazy things. So I think just taking advantage of what VCU has fully was my biggest skill set that's allowed me to feel very confident moving forward.
And that's a really good point, because I think that there's a lot of students out there who are kind of intimidated by professors. Mm-hmm. And let me just say that we put our pants on one leg at a time, just like everyone else. And I would never be put off by a student coming to me, even if I didn't know them, asking me for advice, asking me to talk about research or my thoughts about something. Like, I love interacting with students. And I think all of the other professors in political science feel the same. So you should never be shy or never worry about being out of place if you're asking a professor for feedback or anything. This is why we do this job, is because we like helping students. So keep that in mind. I think, Aisha, that's a really important point. So thank you for sharing that. How about you, Aisha? Do you have any skill sets that you feel like you developed at VCU that have helped you?
Definitely. So I would say to start, I remember taking Dr. Furtheim's international law class, and I remember doing so much research in that class, constantly reading, and that is exactly what I do in my role now, constantly reading and being able to essentially become a subject matter expert in whatever I'm learning. And another thing that we did in class was to be able to argue our points and do that in front of class. Something else that I am constantly doing at work. Outside of that, just in general, a big thing is communication, both written and oral. Your writing is something that we are constantly doing, and that's how we communicate across the State Department to be able to approve policy. And so being a strong writer and orator are so important. a few other things include just like being able to work well in teams, because, you know, at no point will you ever be left to do something by yourself. Everything has to go up through bureaucracy and be approved. And foreign language is always a great asset to have, because it makes you stand out when you are applying for a job.
So do you speak multiple languages?
Well, I started taking Chinese when I was at VCU and continued it from then on.
Wow, that's a very important language to know. I can see how that would serve you well. Great. So I want to ask another question. If you could go back in time to when you were an undergraduate, is there any one thing that you would have done differently?
I think life kind of had a way of working itself out, but I would say, you know, my first year, my parents said, you were going to be Dr. Kamara. So I was a pre-med student, and that was definitely not my thing. And so junior year, I switched into international affairs. So I guess I wish that I knew what I wanted to do earlier. And I think it would have saved me a lot of stress and time.
I think that that's such a common thing. Like, so many people feel like they want to please their parents, like, and they want to make their parents proud. And so, but then on the other hand, as a parent myself, like, I can see projecting my own regrets and my own desires onto my kids. That's a really hard balance to strike. But actually figuring it out in your sophomore year, I think like you actually figured it out long before a lot of people do. So I just want to say to the audience here, if you have any questions, feel free to just paste them in the chat box. The chat box is functioning right now, so feel free to go ahead. I have a bunch of questions that I keep asking, but if you have any questions that pop in your mind, by all means. So Aja, how about you? Is there anything that you would change about your undergrad experience? Any advice in that regard that you might offer our listeners?
I don't know. I think, and maybe this is a cliche piece of advice, but I would say just finding peace and knowing that things will work out. I think for you guys to all be at this panel in itself shows that you guys are very, you know, focused on your futures, very curious about your futures, and that just says enough. And I think for me, I was just very in the mindset, oh, I have to work right away. I'm going to take a year off and go back to school. I'm going to be alive. You know, I had all these 1 year, 2 year plans that have all changed. They've all been for the better. They've all been amazing. But I think it's okay to have a plan in your head for what you think you might want to do. I'm not saying change that. I will never change that about myself. But I think just knowing that things will work out, every experience that you have is worthwhile. I think I'm lucky to have all of my experiences thus far be amazing, but I've had friends that have had first or second jobs be terrible. And it still has led them to a great position that they're in now, or a grad program that they're in now, or just something for themselves. So I just think if the first thing that comes your way is not your dream job or not anything you want, that's a very important thing to realize. And I just think that not everything's going to be perfect no matter what, because even in my great jobs, there was still moments where I was like, oh, I don't know about this, or is this what I want? There's always just going to be questions that you have about yourself and what's next, and just live in it and take note of it and learn a lot about yourself through it all. And don't be so stressed about graduation and let that take over your whole mindset, because like I said, you guys are here, so you guys are already thinking about your next steps, and that's amazing.
Great advice. Megan, I know you have something. I mean, do you have something?
I actually don't. Like, que sera, sera. What will be. But recently I've been saying, like, what will be already is, right? So, like, whatever journey that has brought you here now is exactly the journey you needed to get here. I think there was a lot of frustration and like anger from like my parents that I didn't go straight to school. But I think had I gone straight into higher education out of high school, I would not nearly be as prepared and well-rounded, or I don't think I'd have been as serious about it. When I first tried to go to school out of high school, like I got all I's because I just didn't want to go to class. And I graduated from VCU with a 4.0, and I was an adult and like knew how serious it was and was paying for classes out of our family's budget. So like you can't go back and change anything. But I think that, again, like what Aja said, like you guys are all here, you're doing the things that are going to make a difference for you moving forward, and also just embrace the journey that brought you to where you are now. Your lived experience is going to inform the work that you do. And having people with differing lived experience, having people with lived experience that is directly related to policy that you're working on is the most important thing, because people can sit in, you know, the General Assembly building all day and write legislation, but if they've never stood in line for food stamps, if they've never had to go through the immigration process with their parents, like there's tons of stuff that we look at as like challenges or as hardships that actually really do inform your ability to have empathy and understanding of situations. So whatever brought you here, God bless it. It got you to where you're at now. So just keep going.
Excellent. So we have a few more minutes to work with here, and there's a couple of questions from the audience that I want to get to. We have a message from Parth, who's in attendance, and I'm going to paraphrase it. Were you worried about not getting a job when you were a student, or not getting a job that you wanted? Like, how did you cope with that sort of anxiety? And Megan, this seems particularly relevant to you because this is real, you know, like you're not a conventional college student when you're going to VCU. You have a family. So like, how did you cope with that?
I mean, it was definitely very scary, not knowing what would come next. But again, like, I think a lot of it falls into like trusting that you have done the work, you have prepared, you have gotten yourself ready for entering the job market. And just being open, right? Like the first thing or the dream job might not be the first job you get out of school. But I mean, there's going to be something there. I guarantee you there is something somewhere you can find to do that's going to either better prepare you for your next step or is going to lead you to your next step. So I know it's anxiety inducing. I know it's kind of stressful, especially as a poli-sci person. Like it doesn't seem like there would be a bazillion jobs for that, but trust me, there is in the private and the public sector. So just stay open, stay ready, start looking now. Virginia has a really good website where they post all governmental jobs. Same thing with a lot of the municipalities. I know Richmond in particular has a job posting board, and like start applying, start looking at stuff, start seeing what is required for the positions. But again, like don't stress out too much. I know it's scary. It's definitely scary for me. I have 2 kids and a husband, and definitely was like, hey, get back to work. It was, school was fun, but like go get a job now. So I get the fear and anxiety, but just trust the process, trust your education. VCU is very is growing even in their reputation. And for Virginia politics specifically, VCU is very well known for turning out really good workers. So just trust your education and trust your experience and trust yourself that you're going to be good.
How about you, Aja?
Yeah, I think Megan, that was basically everything I would say as well. I think, and that comes back to kind of what I was saying about wishing I could go back into undergrad and not be so stressed out about having a job right away. I mean, of course, you want a job. We need money. We need to live for ourselves. I'm not saying to just be like, oh, whatever, who cares? But I think just knowing it will happen. Like Megan said, there's constantly opportunities opening up. I think for me, I think if I was in a different position, I would have liked to know where else I could look. So ask a lot of questions. I was so focused on kind of one area of politics that I wanted to go into and only was discussing it with people for that particular role. But there's just so many other things that would have been available most likely, and that I had friends fall into amazing positions that led them to where they even maybe still are or have kind of gone from that. So just be very open to all the different things that are out there. Do a lot of research on that. Where you start doesn't mean that's where you have to finish. And take advantage of these panels. Like now you have 3 people to ask, you have 3 people to look out for you, you have 3 people's emails that you can bother us. Well, I'll speak for you, can bother me. But you have people you can ask, and there's always things that are open. I'm in a group chat still with former colleagues, and all of them have jobs, and they still will be like, hey, this person's hiring. Who do you think you would know for this? Who would be interested? So there's just constantly turnovers in other capacities. So it's easy to be stressed out because you feel like everything is ending in school and you need to jump right over to the next thing. But just know that that will happen for you. There's just so many things available, and VCU is a powerful network. VCU professors are very, very powerful. Use everything you have to your advantage while you have it, because that is one thing that you can luckily gain in a workplace. Like luckily I do have colleagues I can always fall back on, but use this area of your life where you have it right now. You have grad advisors, professors, students that are in your classes with you that have done other internships, that know other people. And then now you have panelists that you can always ask professors about. So use everything to your advantage right now, just to open up that that variety for you.
Excellent. How about you, Aisha?
You know, Megan and Asia said really great things, and I completely agree with them. And I would just, continue on that. Just be flexible to whatever opens up. Initially, your first job might not be super great, but that really gives you time to figure out what you do like in a role and what you don't like in a role. And during that time, use your network, continue to do research and find the things that interest you, and just keep putting out applications. I know for a lot of government jobs, when they show like entry-level jobs, they don't expect you to come in with any experience. They are looking for people that have the degree and have a willingness to learn, and really show them you will put in the work to, be effective. So don't be afraid to apply for that job. That might seem scary. Everything has a way of working out.
Wonderful. And I think we're going to close with one more question from Alyssa. It's a great question. There's a lot of students, and I know a lot of my students, who need to work and they need to actually make money, but they also could benefit from these types of experiences we're talking about. Do you have any advice for what to do when you need to make money to support yourself, but are having trouble finding a paid internship? Is it best to have a job and then also volunteer, or to do an unpaid internship alongside a job? So what are your thoughts about that? And Aisha, you can go first.
Well, I would say like 2 things. First, I remember when I did an unpaid internship, I worked really hard the semester before to save up for it. And if you can, move in with a friend, move in with a family member that's closer to the internship to help you, be able to get to work every day. But also now, because of this COVID environment, there are just so many virtual opportunities that are available. So that way you can still do work online and get the experience and get the networking, even if, you are not able to go in person because the cost would be too high.
And I will just add that this is a terrible situation that we don't really have an answer for. And I appreciate, Alyssa, you raising that question, because it's like a Rubik's Cube trying to solve this, trying to graduate and take your classes and not be in a boatload of debt. But also we have a system that relies on these types of like free unpaid labor experiences to get work down the road. So I totally sympathize with your question, Alyssa. Aja, would you have any wisdom to share?
No, I mean, it is something really difficult, to answer. And I think everyone's like situations are so different. So it's like, I know what worked for me may not work for you, but I also did work a lot during summers. I worked really heavily during summers prior to intern experiences coming my way. So I also had a pretty decent savings. It wasn't enough, but it was something. And I just tried to kind of work that out scheduling wise going forward. I would always, lead with, hey, I want to do this internship. I want to do as much work as I can, but I also will need to work as well. I know no one's schedule is going to be perfect during this time too, because you're trying to work, internship, and graduate, pay for whatever you need to pay for. It's a lot. It's very stressful. And I think transparency is important in these positions. So I don't think there's any one fixed solution to that and kind of what you may need to do. But I always led with that, like, hey, how many days a week can I do? How many hours are possible? Because this is what my current work schedule is for me. And this is what I need to do for myself. Also, never be afraid to ask an internship, can you pay me anything? Can you give me anything? I won't say that's a guarantee. A lot of people will still say no, but I've been told yes when I've asked. I've been told it may not be a lot, it may not be more than a job would be, but at least it was a stipend to move towards something to where, you know, I was able to work out hours for internships, hours for my job, be able to supplement with something else. So I just think I would just answer that wholeheartedly with just transparency. Be very honest about your situation, do what works for you, and always put yourself first in that, because they will work around you. They will. Someone will. Someone won't, but someone will. So just always lead with, this is what I need to do for myself. What can you do to complement this? Come in there with a lot more confidence than I did.
And I will also say thank you to Aisha for forwarding me opportunities at State for paid internships. Please keep dishing it out, because I sent it to the entire department, and we really appreciate that. And likewise to all of our panelists here. Megan, what are your thoughts about this last question?
Well, I agree with you. And as other people have said, like, this is a terrible system that we have in place, where we rely on free labor to get people's foot in the door. I would echo a lot of what Aisha and Aja said. And then I would also say, like, sometimes there's jobs you can find that are there that aren't exactly what you want to do right yet, right? Like, you want to go in and you want to be in LA, you want to be a legislative assistant. Okay, you can't get in there without an internship. It's unpaid. You can't handle that. Cool. The clerk's office is usually always hiring. They're hiring at an entry-level position, and you will get a lot of hands-on experience. There may be an admin position somewhere in an office that you're interested in, or if you're interested in a particular department within state government. Like, it doesn't always have to be the dream job, but it can be a path to get you there. I know it's absolutely terrible that if you don't have the ability to take a unpaid internship and take those hours away from time that you could be working, a lot of times that closes opportunities off for people. So if you've got to be working anyway, like, maybe try to find something somewhere in the realm of what you want to do, that you can take, that's going to be comparable to, you know, another job that you'd be doing somewhere else. I know, like, the clerk's office hires a large staff just for session, just to, like, file stuff and make sure the meetings are running on time and the doors are open and stuff like that. And I think that, you know, everybody from the janitor to the person in charge of the entire building has opportunity to network, to talk to people, and to move their way up. So if nothing else, and you just have to find a job, try to find a job in the building you eventually want to find the job in.
Wonderful advice. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom. I mean, this has just been so awesome, and we are so appreciative for all three of you being able to share your thoughts and come back and talk to us. Hopefully we can do this again soon. Thank you so much. And for all of you listening right now, if you have a question for our panelists after the event is closed, feel free to send me an email. It's keenaja@vcu.edu, and I'll try to forward it to our panelists and get you in touch with them. That's all the time we have. Thanks a lot, and don't be a stranger. Keep in touch, and we're so proud of you. And be sure to let us know how you're doing in the future.
And just first of all, thank you all very much again from me too for coming and joining us and with all this wonderful, helpful information and advice. And for people who maybe want to go back and listen to it again, It was recorded. We will have it posted in a couple places, but the most obvious place will probably be on the Poly Department website. I think you just posted that. So you should be able to find it there later tomorrow. Thank you, Alex. Thank you, everybody.
Have a
Thank
wonderful
you.
night and good luck with the end of the semester.
Yes.
And hopefully see you around.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.